has been particularly helpful to me in many of my endeavors in the courts. I did not have the understanding of just how impacting this particular psalm is until I took the time to go over it and read it for myself. First of all, David called upon God to destroy his enemies in the most horrible ways. Many of us can relate to this here if we had a family member or loved one killed in any type of violence in which we don't know who the person was. David not only seeks the punishment of his enemy, but also the painful consequences brought on his family. Let his children be fatherless and his wife a widow. Let his children wander about and beg, and let them seek sustenance far from their ruined homes. Well, anytime someone hurt you, many of us want to go back and retaliate and do what we think is necessary. For example, there was a 9-year-old boy killed the other day. Now, if that was me and that happened to my child, I know what I probably would have done. But we have enough violence in the city. So you can't use violence with violence. It's not easy to say, but that's why David chose this particular psalm, because this particular psalm will do that for you. I've had several judges to go up against me, 21 in one court. Many have retired or left the bench. But again, I didn't know the impact of this psalm. The Spirit had me to read this particular psalm. The problem we face in Psalm 109 is not necessarily restricted in this particular area. There are other psalms that contain similar prayers for the punishment. Do thou add iniquity to their iniquity, and may they not come into thy righteousness. May they be blotted out of the book of life, and may they not be recorded with the righteousness. That's Psalm 69, verses 27 to 28. So anybody have a mighty enemy or been affected by something that was unrighteous, you've been incarcerated wrongfully, you've been lied on, you've lost a job, there are certain scriptures within this particular verse will take care of that. If you know any elders that knows about the Bible, they will tell you how to use the scripture. You cannot always use violence with violence, because it's not always the wicked that gets caught up in violence. It's the innocent. But there are powerful people in this city who have control over certain entities that will prohibit you to access where you can go normally. But if don't nobody stand up and speak up, you will not get where you're trying to go unless you learn how to pray for yourself. When you're using the 109th Psalm, one must understand you have to be right within yourself. Verses 1 through 5 are crucial, not only to this psalm, but to our understanding of imprecations as we know as curses. David makes two claims. Number one, his innocence and the iniquity of his enemies. The God who is the object of his praise. You got also Deuteronomy 10:21, Jeremiah 17:14. It's also the one who receives his petitions. David's plea that God not remain silent in the verse is a cry for help. That's how I always felt. I pray, but yet I seem to be going through the same thing. No one would do anything, but everybody else that I've helped, everybody, I have friends here that tell you, they came through. Amen. Amen. So even though you may go through something, you may not see your victory, but help somebody else out that's going through. Amen. See, You don't know what that person can do and where they may end up and how they can do for you. No one dare employ God to act as David does in Psalm 109 unless he himself is innocent in the sense that David was. Innocent of the charges of the wicked. And in right standing before God, let those who would pray for the destruction of their enemies be as quick as David to have God search their own hearts and to deal with them in justice, just as they would have him judge their enemies. Imprecatory prayers must only be made by the righteous. If you're going to say a particular prayer in which is considered a curse, make sure that what you're saying is in order. Because what you send out can't come back. See, there are those of us who don't mind helping somebody as we stand in the light. And there's those who operate in the dark and think, can't nobody see what they're doing. Concerning those against whom imprecations are made. Number one, the imprecations, as I've stated, is a curse which God hears are those which are made by those who have clean hands and a clean heart. Imprecations are very effective only when we see sin as God does. And when we ask him to deal with sin as he has promised to deal with it in his word. Those against whom imprecations are effective are those who are truly wicked. Those who are not just our enemies, but God's enemies, is vastly different from a voodoo curse. Amen. This is the basis for this particular petition for the punishment of the wicked. We are taught in Proverbs that a curse without basis has no effect. Like a sparrow in its flitting, like a swallow in its flying, so a curse without cause does not alight. So when you sit down, get on your knees and pray, and whatever you ask for, know what you're asking for, but make sure that what it is that you're asking for is within the right. Don't you do something wrong to somebody, and now the wrath is catching up with you, and you want vengeance on somebody else. You got to stop and think about, what did you do? How do you know a prayer ain't coming back at you for what you did? Let us not leave these introductory verses without learning that those who would pray a prayer similar to David must be like David. They must be those who praise God, not just petition him, and those who are right before God and men. Those who seek God's wrath on the guilty should be innocent. Imprecations are only effective against the guilty. This particular context and many others, their guilt is the offense of the tongue. God takes our words seriously, and so should we. Verse 9 from the New International Version. Jesus heals a man born blind. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned? Well, many of you all who are familiar with the Old Testament, the Old Testament is kind of confusing to me, so I try to simplify things so that when I go to make the delivery, everyone would kind of understand the way it helped me to understand. Amen. Who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God may be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. Yes. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Yes. After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Told the man, go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. I hope I'm saying that right word correctly. This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. The way I'm understanding this here, the man had faith. Now, he was blind. When you're going through something, when you've done all that you can do, I like how Bishop says stand. Yeah. But first you have to do something. In doing it, you have to put the works into it. Faith without works is dead. Yes. So don't just stand and don't do nothing. Make sure you have done all that you can do. Yes. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him beg and ask, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" These are the people who have treated the man wrongfully. That's like people in powerful positions who've taken it upon themselves to have ecstatic relief oppressing those who they feel is beneath them. But prayer turns things around. Some claimed that he was. Others said, no, he only looks like him. But he himself insisted, I am that man. How then were your eyes opened, they asked. He replied, the man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see. Where's this man, they asked of him. I don't know. Well, that right there is like the naysayers in my interpretation. I didn't go even further, but I wanted to close what I was saying about the 109th Psalm to show what God can do miraculously to a person who had no vision coming into this world. So if he can do that to somebody that could not see, well, we all can see. But some of us have to use our common sense to do what we need to do to help one another. You see somebody going through something, help, do what you can do. If not saying a kind word, it's not that you go out here and give somebody money necessarily. It's not about that. We don't have enough kindness in the world. You know, not simple kindness. You know, share a little love. A little love goes into a lot of love. You see. I thank you.
The story of Job. In a distant land, Job, a man who loves God, has everything he needs. He has 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 1,000 oxen, 500 donkeys, and servants to take care of all his needs. He also has a wonderful family, a wife, 7 sons, and 3 daughters. The Lord has blessed me to overflowing. Up in heaven, God is proud of his righteous servant, but Satan hates to see a happy ending. Job only worships you because you make sure nothing bad ever happens to him. If you don't give him such riches and blessings, he would turn from you in an instant and curse your name. You think so? Very well, you may test him. Take away his blessings, but do not hurt him. Satan wastes no time in striking Job with
Alice, can you stop
catastrophe.
for 1 second?
One day a messenger comes to Job. The Sabaeans attacked. They stole the oxen and don't.
Okay, so part 1 is that Job was this wonderful guy. So everybody say Job was a wonderful guy. Job was great to the point where Job pleased God. Like, that's huge. So Job was this wonderful guy, and at the end of him being this wonderful guy, he was so good that God had a meeting in heaven, and he had the angels, and Satan came to the meeting, and God said to Satan, Satan, have you considered my servant Job? Have you considered? And Satan said, you know, of course not. Job is your best friend. Job is that good guy. I can't even touch Job. So then Satan was like, if you remove the hedge, if you remove the protection around Job, then I bet you that he will curse you. I bet you he will curse you. All right? So now this is when God said, all right, Satan, I'm going to remove the protection. I'm going to take away the shield, and then let's just see if you think that you're right. All right, continue, Alex.
And killed the people working in your fields. I'm the only one who escaped. That same moment, another messenger arrives. Lightning struck the sheep and shepherds. They're all dead. I'm the only one who escaped. Then a third messenger comes. Chaldeans raided the camels and killed the camel drivers. I'm the only one who escaped. Yet another messenger arrives with bad news. Your oldest son's house collapsed, killing all of your children. I'm the only one who escaped. Job is saddened by the loss of his property and livestock, but he is devastated at the death of his children. He shaves off his hair in grief and rips his clothes to tatters, but he does not blame God for this misfortune. I came into this world with nothing, and I will leave it with nothing. God gave, and God took away. Praise be to God.
All right, stop
See-
right there. Great. So now you have Satan is attacking Job, and he attacks Job first for killing all of his livestock. So basically taking away all his money. Because back then, your livestock and your animals and stuff was your money. And he took away all his money. And then it came in sections. It was like first it was livestock, then it was more livestock, then it was his servants, and now his children were killed. At that point in time, he didn't even care. Job didn't even care about his money. He cared about his kids. And his kids being killed is the thing that really hurt him the most. But at the end of the day, Job still was like, you know what? Obviously, it's like something's wrong, but God is still good. And you know what? God giveth and God taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. All right, so that is this section. Now we're going to move to the next section.
He is a
because-
better man than you thought. Well, sure, since I didn't do anything to him or his health, but no one praises God when they're sick. So you think, ruin his health if you think that will have any effect on this righteous man, but do not kill him. Satan immediately returns to earth and strikes Job with terrible open sores from head to foot. He curses Job with insomnia, and when Job does not sleep, Satan terrifies him with nightmares. Job can't keep his food down and loses so much weight he can hardly move. Still, Job does not complain, but his wife, "Everything we owned and everyone we loved is gone. Surely this disease will kill you. You should just curse God and die." Job looks at his wife out of painful, bleary eyelids. Don't be a fool. We cannot accept the good things from God without also accepting the bad. When Job's friends hear about his
All right, stop right
troubles, they come to sit.
Okay, now, so you have Satan tested him by killing off everything he had, and he passed the test. Everything was good. But the problem is, when Satan starts to lose, he's like, well, let me find another way to win. So the next way is, of course, Job is not going to curse you because, you know, he's still good. I mean, I can kill his kids and stuff, but if I'm not touching him, he's obviously not going to be afraid enough for him to do what it is I need him to do. So God said, fine, Satan, you can attack his health, but you can't kill him. Now, who here has been sick before? Amen. So if you've been sick before, you would know that it doesn't matter. Like it's almost easy to endure the pains of external forces. Like if something happens to you, but it doesn't affect you personally, it's easier to deal with. If your job is lost, if you have no money, if you have a loss in your family, it's like it hurts, but you can still get up and go to work the next day if you have your job, of course. You can still get up and you can still do what it is that you need to do, and you're not like, you're affected, but you're not affected. Now, if you get sick, no matter what's happening around you, it doesn't matter to you because the sickness hurts more. The sickness feels worse than these other things. So let's say that you had all the riches in the world. You were a billionaire, a trillionaire. but you had cancer, the money would mean nothing to you. If you had all the money in the world, you had all the kids in the world, but you had AIDS, let's just say. The kids, even though you loved them, they wouldn't mean as much to you because you can't enjoy them anyways. You're about to die, you know? So the sickness is a higher level of torture than is the children being lost and is the money being lost. Now, this brings me to the topic. This brings me to what is my message about. The topic of my message is friends. How many of us have them? All right? That's it. Okay, in the beginning of Job, you have Job was a great man and everything, but I didn't express this, but this is what happened with Job. Job would pray to God because he would always think that his kids might have sinned. So because he assumed that his kids have sinned, he had to do burnt offerings, so he would sacrifice offerings to God to forgive his kids just in case they sinned. So he would always say, well, they had to have done something, so let me do this because they had to have done something. All right? So remember that piece. All right? Now, we reach the real topic, which is friends, how many of us has them? No matter how sick you are, no matter the losses you have, all these things, when you have a spouse who's supposed to be your friend, if your spouse is not in your corner, it just makes it twice as hard. If you don't have someone there to help encourage you, you can't really make it. How many of us have been sick before? Right? And how many of us has had someone to help you through the sickness? Now, how many of us have been sick before? And how many of us have not had help during the sickness? Now, when you don't have help during the sickness and when you do have help, which one is easier to deal with? The help. Right? So it's like not only is Job sick, but now his own wife. Yeah, but deeper than his children, because his children was the first level of torture. Then you have the next level of torture, which is you being sick yourself. But not only are you sick, but you also have your spouse who's supposed to be your encourager. When you can't make it yourself, you need somebody to say, you can make it. But his own wife is like, why don't you just curse God and die? It's not encouraging. Not at all. So Job cannot even count on his own wife when he's at his worst point. All right, continue the video.
Him in the garbage dump at the edge of town. The disease has affected Job so strongly his friends almost don't even recognize him. For 7 days no one speaks. They just sit together with their friend. Finally, after a week, Job breaks out with a cry of grief. I have done nothing wrong. Why is God letting all these terrible things happen to me? Eliphaz is shocked at Job's harsh question. Now, don't get upset, Job, but from everything I've seen, God doesn't punish innocent people. You must have done something wrong. But I haven't sinned, and even if I have, God knows my heart and would forgive me. But Bildad is not convinced. It sounds like you're blaming God for being unfair, Job. I'm sorry, but if your kids were killed, it's because they must have deserved it. You have a chance to confess your sins. You should take it. I would confess my sins if God would come and tell me what I had done wrong. Job's insistence that he is innocent offends his third friend, Zophar. You windbag! You don't know anything about God. You stubbornly insist that you have done no wrong. when the only thing that can save you is to apologize to God for your sins. Some friends you are. You do not comfort me at the worst time of my life. You think you speak for God? I only wish he would come speak for himself. Even if he killed me, I would trust in him. Even as Job speaks, God suddenly comes to him in a storm.
Stop it right there.
Stand.
All right. So the topic is friends. How many of us have them? Say it again. Again. All right. Now, no matter what you're going through, even if your spouse is completely against you, as long as you have friends, you can make it. How many of us have gone through situations, bad situations? But if you had a friend that you could talk to about it, it makes you feel better. At the end of the day, you're like, at least I could tell somebody. At least with the diarrhea that I'm having, at least I could tell somebody. And they could be like, it's going to be okay. I got some tablets. Right? From Chinatown. Amen. All right, Lipton tea, you're going to be okay. Now, this is a thing that is the ultimate blow to Job. It is not his family dying. It is not his money being lost. It is not his wife telling him basically to kill himself. It's none of these things. Because if you look at Job, there is 42 chapters in Job. 42. Now, the thing that covers the most chapters you would think would be the most important thing, but no one really covers. Well, they cover it, but it's like brushed over. How severe it really is. 42 chapters in Job. Everybody say 42 chapters in Job. Of the first 2 chapters is when Satan is like, I'm going at him. 2 chapters. So if you take 2 from 42, you have 40 chapters. Of the 40 chapters, you have basically the last 2 chapters of God telling Job of all the things that, that God has done. Basically, you should not be questioning me because obviously I'm the ultimate power. I'm the universe. So if you take 2 from 42, you have 40. You take another 2 from 40, you have 38. 38 chapters is just of his friends' conversation with Job. Right? So, out of 38 chapters, if you were sitting there and you have boils on your face and all over your body, your wife told you to kill yourself. Your kids are dead. You've lost all your money. Job could still take all of that. But if you have 38 chapters full, so let's just say it's basically like 38 days of your friends telling you how bad you are and how wrong you are, or how wrong you must be to got this punishment. When you have that aspect, you see how Satan really works. Right? So Satan doesn't have to just completely kill you. No. He just eliminates one piece after one piece after one piece. And even though you can handle all these things, he then has to remind you on a constant basis that you've got to be so wrong. And it can't be from you, because then you can tell yourself, no, I'm not wrong. But it's got to be a friend after a friend after a friend who's constantly beating you down over and over and over and over and over. At that point, who can really stand? Who can really make it when you literally have nobody? And then at the end of this, and we'll play it. So let's just play it.
Up on your feet like a man. I will question you, Job, and you will answer me. You think you know so much, Job? Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Have you ever commanded the morning to come? Do you show the sun where to rise? Can you untie the ropes that hold the stars together? Can you rule over the magnificent creatures I have created? I am in charge of the universe. I am in charge of everything that exists. You cannot understand my ways. You cannot know the greater good I desire for you. Your place is simply to trust in me. In reply to God's speech, Job falls to his knees. I spoke about things I didn't understand. Forgive me. After this, God heals Job. He gives him twice as many animals as he had lost, and he gives him 10 more children. Job lives for a long time after all of this.
In the 38 chapters of Job being tortured by his friends, you have to ask yourself, did Job really have friends to begin with? Are you a friend if you know that someone is going through the worst parts in their life, but you have to find something bad to say about them? That's not a real friend. There's not a real friend if you know that you're going through problems, but they have to tell you, as though you don't know, the problems that you're going through. That's not a real friend. So at the end of the day, Job could take on every aspect of his problems and troubles and everything. And he never complained about the problems or troubles that he was going through until his friends start telling him that you are so wrong. You must have done something wrong. Only then could Job not take it anymore. Only then did Job get so frustrated that he had to say, I wish I was dead. Like, why is these things happen to me? God, how could you do this to me? I just don't understand why. God, just tell me why. But he never did that until his friends started complaining and complaining and complaining to him about the problems as though he didn't even know that he was going through the problems. But at the same time, they're not going through anything. All they're doing is coming at his place, probably eating his food, and torturing him. Over and over. 38 chapters of torture. That was the real torture. Now, it brings me to my conclusion. So the title is Friends, How Many of Us Have Them, right? And I told you, remember this part in the beginning. In the beginning, Job would pray to God, saying that my kids must have sinned. So I have to do these burnt offerings because my kids must have sinned. Right? And Jesus, when Jesus came, he said the greatest 2 commandments is to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. Right? So loving your neighbor as yourself is basically like, don't judge people, because you yourself could be judged the same way. Right? This is the bonus. Are you all ready? Here we go. I'm bringing it home. Job judged his kids. They must have sinned. Right? Job judged his kids. They must have sinned. Now, when you flip it around, the worst part of Job's torture is that his friends judged him that he must have sinned. Right? Right? In the end, obviously, in the end, obviously, God blessed him again, gave him kids again, gave him money again, his livestock again. Everything was great. And God had to express to him at the end of the day that no matter what you're going through, no matter the problems, that I'm the ultimate power anyways. So why are you complaining to me? I'm the ultimate power. But with that ultimate power and all the stress that Job had went through, imagine if the friends knew who was the real problem, which was causing all these torturous things that happened to Job. Never once did the friends say, the devil did it. Never once did the friends point out, let me pray for you because the enemy is attacking you. Never once did that happen. And Job even never once realized, oh man, the devil is after me. Imagine if Job knew that the devil was after him and Job had the power through Jesus to defeat the devil. Job would have never had to go through these torturous things because Job would have already defeated the enemy ahead of time. So that's my conclusion.
First, giving honor to God, to the Honorable Chief Bishop Melvin Crawford, and to Evangelist Crawford, to all our leaders of the gospel, saints, friends, and family. Today we've been talking about what the theme of this Men's Day is, and that's faith. We heard about faith from the first brother, about how to pray and pray for the right things. We heard about the faith to take you through a hard time from Minister Coffey. So in continuing with that theme of faith, I would like to present you with this very short story about faith. Now, there was a ship at sea, and it was caught in a storm. And the ship began to sink, and all of the people died except for 2 men. And through the grace and mercy of God, they was able to swim to a small island from not too far from where the ship had sunk. Now that they have made it to the island, they felt their best hope for survival was through prayer to the Most High God. And they decided the effective way to pray is if we divide the island into 2. One man goes on one side, one man goes on the other side. And we both pray just to make sure that you're truly praying for the right thing, because we'll see it and there is no confusion. Your prayer will be on your side of the island. Your prayer answer will be on your side of the island. Just to make sure they was praying with all their faith. Now, the first item on their prayer list, quite obviously, was food. And they began to pray for food and with all their might and all their strength and all their faith. And the next day, the first man woke up to find an abundance of trees full of fruit. But on the second man's side of the island, the land was barren and there was not a drip drop of food there. A couple weeks passed. Now the men are longing for some female companionship. First man begins to pray with his faith, and a ship that passed by also sunk. And everybody passed away and died except for one person who made it to the first man's side of the island, and that person was a woman. But on the other side of the island with the second man, there was nothing. Now the first man, seeing the power of prayer through faith, began to pray for more food, and he began to pray for more clothes, and even for a nice dwelling for him and his new female companion. And the very next day, they was all there. The food, the clothes, and the nice abode for him and his female companion. But on the other side of the island, with the second man, there was nothing. Finally, the first man, tired of being on this island, prayed for a ship to take him and his female companion off the island, off into the sunset. And he began to pray. And the next day, a ship passing by this short island saw them. And as he got on the ship, him and his female companion, before the ship took off, a voice from heaven said, and asked him, "Why are you leaving the first man on the island?" And the first man replied, all that I've received from you, God, was because of my faith. And because the other man's faith was lacking, he received nothing. So I figured that, he deserved to stay on the island. And the Lord replied to the first man, "Son, you are wrong. You are confused and you are misguided. For everything that you have received was not just because of your faith, not just because of your prayer, but because the man on this second island had a great faith. And everything that he prayed for was not for himself, but he prayed that everything that you prayed for will come to you." So I say in closing, ask yourself this question. The next time you received whatever it is you prayed for, was it because of the faith that you had to pray for you, or was it because of the faith somebody else had to pray for you? Ask yourself that question.